Yeah, Gene Hackman, man. Holy shit. So,
oh, man.
For those who don't know, but everybody must know. So he was found dead with his wife and with his dog.
We are following breaking news. Actor Gene Hackman has died. The sheriff in Santa Fe, New Mexico says Hackman and his wife were found dead in their home, but no foul play is suspected.
And it's like, well, that's fucking weird. Like, just the whole house is dead. I guess there were 2 dogs that survived.
So immediately people were like, gas leak? What happened here?
Carbon monoxide, gas leak, foul play. They're like, immediately they're like, no signs of foul play. And then I think me and the rest of the world were just kind of lost. We're like, well, what the and then they're like, no signs of carbon monoxide or gas leak. Like,
what is it?
What happened then? It's got to be, because you start thinking, like, is it medication related? What, for 2 humans and a dog? Like, the whole thing is perplexing. And then an explanation surfaces, and it does in fact explain the whole thing, but in the bleakest, most horrible possible way. Gene Hackman, one of the greats, especially of 1970s cinema. This is Lex Luthor, and this is Royal Tenenbaums.
Royal Tenenbaums, yeah.
This dude's a giant in cinema. What's the cop movie?
The French Connection.
French Connection. Thank you. His 65-year-old wife, who his children loved, I think she was like a second wife or something, said, and he had dementia like for a while now. They said she took great care of him and was really awesome to him. She died unexpectedly in the house of something related to mouse droppings.
Yeah, that's why you want to get mice out of your house. That's why you have to kill every single mouse in your house, because they can die and then everyone else dies because you're dead.
Yeah, it's called the hantavirus. Hanta virus.
That's why, yeah, if no joke, if you are handling wild mice or just be careful.
It can kill you.
I see a little brown mouse walk across the kitchen and it disappeared. We have to clean everything, deep clean everything, throw away things in the pantry, yada, 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 all those things. And it's completely fine because I've had people get mouse diseases. Like there's what's that virus with the H you can get from rodents and their poop. People have gotten that. But, so now I have to catch this mouse.
Hantavirus?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's it.
So it's rare. It spreads to humans only by contact with rodents or their urine and droppings. It can lead to shortness of breath, fatigue, and ultimately death. So she dies. He's 95, has, I think, severe dementia. He's unable to look after himself, certainly not the 3 dogs. And a week later, he dies, probably because he was missing life-saving medication during that time.
Officials say pacemaker data indicates Hackman likely died February 18th.
Does this mean Gene Hackman was likely home with his deceased wife for a week before he passed away himself?
Yes, I would assume that is the case.
Now, I don't know if his dementia is a horrible thing to think about. I don't know if his dementia was making it so he was rediscovering the body, or if he was so far gone that he was not really noticing that she was gone, or what. But there was a week there. There's a fucking bleak week there where Gene Hackman, one of the greatest actors in American history, is 95 years old. And he's a ticking time bomb because he can't care for himself because the person died, and he can't call for help. He doesn't know how to call for help.
It's crazy,
right? And then the dog, was malnourished. Probably, I don't know if they said how the dog died, but probably it's because the dog stopped being cared for, and then 2 dogs survived. So that explains it. Or he died of cardiac arrest at some point. He had a heart attack. So you can go out a pretty terrible series of ways, I guess. There's no fun way out of here, off the planet.
You could be a famous actor and and just go out in a horrible way because your brain's gone and your wife dies.
Jesus. And it's obviously it probably was a great thing that he got to be home with his wife instead of in a nursing home, and
yeah. Well, that was one of the things. My grandmother, we made sure that she was in her house, and it was great because everything was on one floor, and we had a nurse come in and check on her and stuff like that. And it's a blessing to be able to do that. But if something goes wrong on that chain, that's crazy.
Yeah. And it turned out like the thing that was keeping him alive was one person. If something happened to that person, I asked ChatGPT, how did Gene Hackman die? And it's because I wanted to know if there was any other details we were missing. It says, as of now, Gene Hackman is still alive. There have been occasional internet rumors about his death, but they are false. Hackman, born in 1930, retired from acting in the mid-2000s and has since focused on writing novels and enjoying a quiet life out of the public eye.
Ed is now dead. When you go long enough and it starts contradicting itself.
There it is. I said try again. Gene Hackman, the esteemed actor, passed away February 2025. He was found deceased in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Oh, he's in New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Betsy Arakawa, and he was 95 and she was 65. She succumbed to hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, respiratory disease.
Yeah.
I guess like during COVID-19, like she was, they were trying to keep him safe. And then this happens. Clint Eastwood weighed in. I'm glad he's not alone in his house. How fucking old is he? He said, there was no finer actor than Gene, intense and instinctive, never a false note. Morgan Freeman honored him at the Oscars.
Like everyone who's ever shared a scene with him, I learned he was a generous performer and a man whose gifts elevated everyone's work.
Maybe his dementia was so far gone that it was like not that bad.
Yeah, maybe it somehow protected him. Who knows? We don't know. Poor
guy. That really sucks. Well,
yeah.
On the topic of dying things, Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy, she did you see this ping ponging that happened where they finally announced that she was leaving, and then she was like, "Well, let me be clear, I'll never retire."
Yeah, it was kind of like you could interpret it that like, yeah, I'm retiring, but I'm not retiring.
Yeah,
I'm going to be working on something.
I think it's quite obvious what happened. They are setting up some kind of year-long or within the year succession plan for her. And that got out, and they wanted to be the ones to say that. They don't want to be given they don't want to give Nerdrotic his satisfaction.
Midnight's Edge.
I believe the famous song goes, "Ding dong, the witch is dead." And while that may not be exactly true, Kathleen Kennedy is now reported to be on her way out the door, with her legacy in utter ruins.
Finally, Kathleen Kennedy.
It has been decided that Kathleen Kennedy, we have counted our chickens before they hatched. However, this time a chicken has hatched.
Been confirmed that Kathleen Kennedy is finally out this time.
She has succumbed to the hantavirus. I think the consensus is that could have done a better job with Star Wars, probably.
And Indiana Jones.
Hey, give you a few tips and tricks. I mean, this is somebody who had a hell of a run in Hollywood before this whole Lucasfilm thing. She was an Indiana Jones producer. She was an E.T. producer. She was a giant in cinema before she owned the brand. So it made me reflect on like, a lot of those movies made money. You remember Confused Matthew was like, hey, Last Jedi was a commercial success. And I was like, yeah, it might have been a commercial success, but that's a check you can't cash too many times.
Yeah. I'm just gonna lay my cards out on the table here. I thought The Last Jedi was a fantastic film. I really do.
Okay.
I understand.
You're crazy.
I am crazy.
And then immediately Solo bombed, and yeah, so I don't know.
It's been diminishing returns ever since. But because slapping Star Wars on something will sell it, probably.
I'm going with the cologne I wore on our first date.
Fool me once, shame on you. You can't get fooled again.
Fool me once. Shame on you. It fooled me. We can't get fooled again.
It made me reflect on like which project, because they did a lot of projects. Which projects do I consider a success? Forget whether or not it got a lot of ratings, because like Kenobi got a lot of ratings. I don't consider Kenobi a success.
No.
Like nobody's happy with the way that came out. In fact, that's one where I'm like, there's got to be more fucking Acolyte fans than there are Kenobi fans. I don't think anybody liked that Kenobi show.
No, because people saw it, but I don't think they liked it.
So this is my point. Yeah, right. And I buy the, I'm going to a shot across the bow here. I think a lot of the people who say they like The Last Jedi have not rewatched The Last Jedi and don't really care about Star Wars. I think that's really, like, I don't think I give a fuck. Like it was kind of fun in that moment to be the one who liked it or something, you know, to choose sides or something.
And it was just close enough to being like a not embarrassing movie that they could get away with it.
Yeah.
Because there's some interesting things in it. And you're like, okay, I guess so. And then, and nobody can defend Rise of Skywalker. And there's no like political angle that can be fun.
So I think only 2 projects were a success. And I would say they're both big successes, probably. One more than the other, certainly. Rogue One, I think was a success. I don't really care for Rogue One all that much. I think it's got a great third act. The whole movie kind of exists for its third act, and it feels reshooty. Feels like it had a few hands in it and stuff, but not too bad. But it definitely has love and care for it. It's visually really stimulating. I think that Admiral, whatever his name is really cool. It's that the Darth Vader hallway scene is memorable.
But then you have stuff like the Forrest Whitaker stuff and like the tentacle psychic monster. It's like, what the fuck was that? But yeah, the last act, the last act is great.
So I'm not a huge fan of that movie. I don't really want to rewatch that movie. I think the deep fakes suck too. But I think that the movie is well remembered. It came out now going on 9 years ago. I think generally, like if you ask an average Star Wars fan, like which ones of the movies did you like, they'll probably tell you Rogue One. They'll probably say they liked it. So that's good. And it spawned Andor. Now I know Andor wasn't successful in its first season with ratings, but this is like the opposite. It was like, hey, it made all this money. Yeah, but nobody likes it and it hurt the brand. Andor is like, yeah, it had low ratings, but like stick with it and invest in it because like it's picking up momentum and people actually like it. Again, I'm not a huge Andor guy. But I do think that season 2 trailer looked kind of badass, actually.
Oh yeah, and there's enough in season 1 that I was like, oh, it won me over. I remember watching the first couple episodes and being like, fuck this.
Yeah.
But then when I think you were talking about, the prison sequence good, and so I kept going, and it's got some good stuff in it.
It has a vision. It has good characters. I like that, like that mall security Imperial guy, you know?
Oh, yeah. And you see, was it Mon Mothma doing her thing, and she's good in that.
I think that's kind of interesting, the Mon Mothma stuff. This idea that there's a political class. There's it's kind of a groveling, complacent, because the rest of the Republic could influence change, but they're too decadent and fattening themselves too much. So kind of. It's a lot more sophisticated than you're used to with Star Wars.
Yeah, the fact that it takes itself so seriously is actually a benefit.
Yeah,
like you're taking this, like kind of silly adventure story and really grounding it and taking every part. You can tell everyone was taking everything seriously, and that shows, and people respect that.
Yeah, just having a vision in the first place for what it's meant to be and what you're doing with the story. I just want, so often I want the filmmaker to signal to me that I'm in good hands, that they're going to take me someplace, that I'm not going to be on episode 5 being like, fuck this. I don't want to be doing that. Don't Walking Dead me, bro.
Oh, no.
I quit that show around season 4 or something, but I don't want to be in season 25 being like, when does it happen? Anyway, so I think Rogue One, is a success. I may someday say that Andor was a success too, but for right now, Andor is kind of a symptom of the success of Rogue One, I feel.
Yes.
If Andor season 2 does really well and whatever, it leads to like a really big, cool prestige Star Wars show or something, I'll amend my answer. And then the second one obviously is Mandalorian. I think
absolutely.
And Mandalorian, like people don't realize the ratings were so much bigger on that show than they were for every other show. Like I think the next one in line was Kenobi, and it did like 6 million per episode more than that.
I wonder if that was because people were getting it for free for like their Verizon phones, and it was COVID,
and it was good.
It was new, and it was good. It was definitely good. So it was just like so many things came in line that made it such a hit, and the Baby Yoda thing, obviously, that they were so completely unprepared for. But
yeah, it had like just the right level of like novelty, and familiarity. We were just talking about that with YouTube. It's like, well, it can't just be samey. It's gotta evolve, but it can't evolve too much, or it can't be unrecognizably. It can't be. Luke, in my opinion, is unrecognizably Luke in The Last Jedi. It can't be that. Like, you can grow Luke, but you can't grow him to be something that he's not. I think Mandalorian, like, it basically just does genre filmmaking. You remember, I think in that first season, it was like, here's our, like, samurai episode. Here's our, our Old West episode. And, like, here's our, pirate episode. It felt kind of like Firefly,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which is a great show.
Yeah, it's really good. I love it.
And Serenity,
in particular. Yeah.
I remember I never saw Firefly, but I was looking for something to see in the theaters. My friend and I would always just go, and we're like, oh, what's this Serenity? It looks kind of cool. I went into it cold, and it blew me the fuck away, Serenity. Oh, I was like... It was more Star Wars than the Star Wars that we were getting. It was just like, it was just so, like, the personalities were good, the story was good, everything was so good. And then I went back and watched Firefly, and I was like, oh, this is so freaking good.
Yeah. And the very hot Christina Hendricks, that's how I learned about her. Maybe everybody knew about this already, but I saw a Variety article that came out last week. This is from Variety. George Lucas's axed Star Wars series cost $40 million an episode and would have blown up the franchise. Disney would have never bought Lucasfilm if it got made. Have you heard this?
No. What is
Rick
this?
McCallum, he's the guy who talks like this.
Yeah.
Originally for the Star Wars I was involved in, the real ones, we attempted to do as little shooting as possible.
You can see the pilots inside of them. You can see their heads moving.
Fuck you, Rick Berman. Wait, you're not Rick Berman.
Rick Berman. He was Lucas's number two, effectively, at least during like the 90s. And he said, George Lucas's plan was to make a show called Star Wars Underworld, and it was going to cost $4 billion. No, sorry, they sold it for $4 billion. I'm just trying to read through here. I think we had over 60 scripts, like third draft scripts, McCallum said. Noting they brought the most wonderful writers in the world to Lucas's Skywalker Ranch to map out and pen the series. These were dark scripts. They were sexy. They were violent. They were absolutely wonderful, complicated, challenging scripts. What the fuck? And it would have been $40 million per episode. I mean, I guess you wouldn't have done that many episodes then, right?
They should have done it.
Holy,
how embarrassing could it be?
What was that bastard up to?
They'd probably all be green screen. It would have been great.
Oh, big time. The producer said, not making Underworld remains one of the greatest disappointments of our lives, adding, the problem was that each episode was bigger than the films. So the lowest I could get it down to with the tech that existed then was $40 million an episode. But instead we got Book of Boba Fett and Skeleton Crew. Sounds fascinating. I mean, you can't help but wonder what could have been with his midi-chlorian movies or whatever the fuck you wanted to be.
Yeah. I remember hearing that he was making a live-action TV show, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting for Star Wars.
I remember that, too.
At the time.
And what about, remember Star Wars, he was going to get Seth Green to do a comedy, and they actually made it, like a trailer came out.
Oh, yeah, it was like kind of like a not Robot Chicken, but like a funny thing.
Basically, I think he probably saw Robot Chicken and was like, oh, that'd be fun. Like, let's do that, but like, we'll do, Industrial Light and Magic, we'll do the animation or something. I do really like those Robot Chicken Star Wars shows. Those are really funny.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there are a few things we want to go over with you concerning Lord Vader. First and foremost, he thinks he has the power to strangle us. Truth is, he doesn't. If he ever realized this, he would kill us with his lightsaber. Thus, to keep us safe, we'll all pretend to get strangled.
Maybe the Family Guy ones are good.
I think they're great. The animation's lovely.
If you won't talk, we have very effective means of torture.
Whoa. Well, I don't want to be tortured. All right, Luke's on Dagobah, there's a rebel base on Kashyyyk, and I'm the one who clogged the toilet on the 16th floor.
Oh, that was disgusting!
It was just a more exciting time when Lucas owned Star Wars, I do have to say. Because he really didn't care about parody. He liked parody. He leaned into it. He was kind of, a little bit like giving with the rights. Star Wars Underworld. Maybe they can somebody should make a video game. Why not do that? Why not make
absolutely.
Or do an animated show, right?
Yeah, like What If and all that stuff. Yeah, do it.
Just do it. What the fuck? What are you worried about? Like, it's not going to be as good as Book of Boba Fett? What are you worried about?
Look,
Make it act like dumbasses.
it took all this time for them to like finally have Luke Skywalker walking around Disney World. Like it took them that fucking long to figure that out, that maybe we should have some Luke Skywalker at the Disney park.
Fucking dipshit.
They're dumb. They're like the dumbest people on the planet.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.